So for part two of my front range rail event, I got to operate on David Stewart's Appalachian and Ohio Railroad. Now, David's railroad is an O-scale standard gauge railroad, and David is the real reason why I got to even attend Front Range Rail. He sent me the invitation to come down there, and he was a real generous host, and got to stay with him for a few days. So this layout I was at a little bit earlier, and I got to do a few other things I normally wouldn't get to do, walk around and look at things. And so we'll do some of that, and I'll explain to you some of the railroad. Also, I'll go through and show you my first train. We operated the layout in two shifts. So my first shift, I was operating a coal train, and then second shift, I was a dispatcher. The quick story about how I met David is that we were both in a book called Mountain Railroads, put out by Kalmbach. Tony Custer published it, and we were on adjoining pages. When I was doing my live load uh, research, I noticed that David Stewart was also doing live loads, and so I contacted Tony, who gave me David's address, and I emailed him, and we started a correspondence. And little did we know, he has family and friends living in my area, so he would come up here for a visit. He started coming to visit me, and now I get a chance to go visit him. So the Appalachian and Ohio Railroad occupies most of the David's basement, and it is a big space. And he's got a lot of nice amenities for people that come to visit, the crew lounge and the bathroom down there. But this layout fits in a rather unique shaped room, and I think the unique shape of the room is what gives the track plan a lot of character. Had this room been a big rectangle, it wouldn't have been as twisty and turny, and I think that all those twists and turns really adds to this railroad, especially since it's trying to be in the mountains of West Virginia. So what I thought we'd do first here is just walk the aisles of the layout, and we're going to start at the entry where there's a large river scene. It's the Ohio River Bridge. On one side's West Virginia, and on the other side's Ohio. Now this is a duck under, but it's a very high duck under, so it's kind of a crouch under, and he's got a nice arrangement where you have these handles that you can rest your weight on as you go underneath, and they also give you an indication of how far you have to go to get underneath the bridge so you don't stand up underneath it. So the first path we're going to take here is we're going to go underneath the bridge that you have to nod under, and then we're going to go to the right where we'll be going down this long twisty aisle, and this is like the main aisle. And if you look at here, I drew a yellow arrow of the path that this video will be taking. Partway through this walk, there'll be a T where you can either go left to go to the main yard or go right to another yard down another aisle. So here's that bridge. Again, on the one side is West Virginia, on the other side is Ohio, and I'm going to duck underneath this. And here's these handles that you can put your hand on and kind of rest your weight on as you go underneath. And when you get to the end, you just simply turn and stand up and you're on the other side of the bridge. I thought that worked really well. So I'll kind of briskly walk down this aisle here, and you can see this is pretty high here. The elevation is about 59 inches on the left side of me here, about the same on the right. Here's one of the people tunnels that we're crossing underneath here. There's David's rotary dumper that works, really unloads cars, and we'll get back to that a little later. It's a long industrial area here on the right side. On the left side, there's a bridge that crosses the Ohio River, and in comes the Antioch and Dover, which is a short line that enters on the layout here and runs down a short branch line till it meets back up with the A&O. So here's that T, and now to the right side is the working hump yard, but we'll take the left side here. We'll cross under another people tunnel here, and down below on the left there was actually an emergency exit, and we'll take another look at that a little later on too. So now we're coming down to the end of this aisle, which is a yard at Rixburg, West Virginia. And this is where I'll pick up my first train, which is sitting there on the right side. It's a coal shifter with 3 F units on it. And this is also where the Antioch and Dover interchanges with the A&O. So if we take the other route, it's going to start up here in what's called the rain room, but it's really Darwin, West Virginia. And it's always dark in there, and you can hear the thunder and the rain. And then we cross through a people tunnel that has curtains to kind of be a light and sound block here. Then you can see as we're walking down, we're actually going down a ramp because Darwin is up high. It's like 65 inches. And now we walk down to that Ohio River Bridge. Now the second path we're going to take is back at that T. We're going to walk the other way. And down this aisle is where the main working hump yard is. And I didn't get a chance to go into this when it was operating. I did play around with it the night before. He showed me how it all works, and it really works well. He's really got it all figured out with the retarders. But this is another big area here. This is the main kind of yard, I would say. The track plan, this is Millport, Ohio. So the next area that we're going to be walking through is a really interesting area. When you model O-scale, you have big curves, and big curves mean wide peninsulas. Well, David utilized that wide peninsula to actually make a branch line down the middle inside of the peninsula. And the way you access this area is you go to Darwin, West Virginia, which is again known as the rain room, and you duck under the yard and walk into a space that's down the middle of the peninsula. Now, when you duck into the middle peninsula, you actually duck in more towards the end, right in front of this tipple. The drawing is a little bit outdated and shows the entry a little farther down the line. But as you walk down this area here, on the right side is actually the backdrop for the yard at Darwin. And then on the left is the branch line, which is actually the backdrop from Rixburg, which is where my train will start. And up on the right here, it's really high. That's 65 inches, and it's dropping down. This is where the train first comes through into the branch line, is right by this string of cars on the right. And it will go down on the right side. Again, we're going to cross through another people tunnel here. And this is the narrowest part here. This is brushing my shoulders. And David's finishing the ceiling here to simulate blasted rock here. But we'll go through these curtains here, and we're going to come to the K Ford area. And K Ford is a working coal tipple that David had on his original A&O layout, and he's going to be reinstalling it here. There's been pictures of it posted many times. It's kind of a iconic structure of the A&O. You can see it does have some of the loading boom cranes installed here. Okay, so let's get the session started here. The first train that I'll be operating, and the only train I operate on this session, is the number 400, the Scarlet Shifter. And it starts out at Rixburg, West Virginia, and it will be a string of empty coal hoppers bound for the branch. My power will be an ABA set of F units, and they have all sound, full sound. So here's my train sitting at Rixburg, kind of taking a look at it, and the yard operator is getting a briefing from one of the regular crew.
Is what they're going to be on. So these guys.
So I had gotten the green signal. I departed from Rixburg Yard, and I'm headed up the mountain here. These are Loc Sound decoders. I have it on drive hold, and I am just cranking the throttle at this point. It's a little bit difficult to get a wide shot here because the scenes are so big. So I'm kind of backing up along as my train's working up the grade here. We're passing the Golden Spike Monument, which is an N-scale hopper car on a stone pad. So I didn't get to go very far here, and I already hit my first red signal. So I'll be slowing down here at the signal. Now this signal is conveniently located next to a moonshine still, and if you look really hard, you'll see a green glass bottle waiting over there by the electrical cabinet. That's a little gift for the crew there. So I got the yellow and I'm ready to go, so I cranked up my throttle, hit the drive hold, and put her in run 8. You can see in the tunnel there, my Mars light's on. As I was waiting here, I got to figure out how to turn all the little fun features on. It's a little difficult to hold car cards and orders and throttle and do drive hold and everything, but I did my best. Again, trying to be a operator first. So the next town I'm coming into here is Mount Union, and this is a really neat scene along the aisle here. The main line's on the back, and on the front is the Antioch and Dover short line. So my train's run along the back there, kind of on an elevated stretch, and came upon my next red signal. As a mine shifter, you are kind of a low priority, so you're pretty much having to pick your way through the mainline traffic, the higher priority stuff here. But this is a really fun spot to stop. There's a lot of stuff to look at here, a lot of neat scenery. Here you can see my signal's actually up here on the first bridge that crosses the Ohio River. So I'll be stopping here. The rest of my train is through a tunnel and back there at Mount Union. And I'll hang out there for a little while and take in some of the sights while I wait for my opposing train. across the aisle from me is David's working rotary dumper, and it was in action there, so I got to sit and watch a few hopper cars get dumped. And it's really neat. He's got full sound in there. One of his friends helped him put sound in that and sync it all up, and it's really fun to sit and listen to it. You can't really hear it on this video. I wasn't close enough to get taking all the sounds. It's actually, the dumper is kind of an interesting thing because both David and I saw the original Railroad Model Craftsman article, and I built the version of that when I was a teenager way back in the 80s, and it was fun to kind of see his version of it, which was way better than my version of it. So we'll take another look here at Mount Union. I did some low-level videos so you can see all the structure, interior detailing. One of the things about O-scale that you'll know when you get modeling into it is that the windows are a lot bigger than some of the smaller scales, and you can really see in. So it really pays a lot of dividends to put in the interiors in these. If you don't like doing interiors, maybe want to make your structures with windows that are kind of foggy, but he's got it all. That garage you can't see, but it had everything inside of there. It was really fun to look into. You can see all the crates and barrels in here all are labeled. So on the other side of the aisle where that dumper was, you can see here the fascia. Everything is recessed and there's lights above the shelves. Really keeps things out of your way. He has these pivoting out um, shelves to work on that are really done well too. Really nice feature. Also got to see some fallen flags. Some famous model railroads. His car cards are interesting too. I really like these. I think he said he had a tutorial on how to make these on his website, but the waybales are inside of a pocket that insert from the bottom. I couldn't pull it all the way with one hand, but it really keeps the waybale from getting caught. Like when you have a stack of these, some of the external waybales, especially with the top loading pocket, when you have a whole stack of car cards, they kind of get stuck on each other. So back here at my train, you can see my opposing train has finally come in here, and we'll sit and watch him pass by. It's a GP35. I believe that's a brass model. My headlight is dim for the approaching train. It doesn't really look like it's dim on this video. And here comes the caboose, patched over window there. Kind of a neat detail. Curtains in the window. Okay, so I get the green and I'm ready to highball up this long grade. This is going to be a long single track section. We're going to climb 25 inches. We started out at 40 inches and we're going to end up at 65 inches. You can see the red rosin paper that David uses for a scenery base. Really kind of gives a nice feeling of some shape of the terrain. That'll get covered up, some of it with plaster, some of it's left that way where he plants trees on it. I was trying to show here that the cab interiors have all the lights on the gauges and everything. They're all detailed out. It's really fun to look in there, especially when you get into a low light area. Here I'm crossing a future curved trestle. This will be a really neat scene when it's done. Going to go through a small cut named mini cut, of course, and back onto another curved trestle. Right here the layout's about 52, 53 inches from the floor. You can see my signal there is flashing. When that signal went to green, I got moving again on the other side of that tunnel. Now I'm going to be crossing a long bridge, and this bridge here, you can see has that raised middle part on the scenery below there where he's got the towers being planned out. That is actually an emergency exit that comes all the way from the other side of the room. If there was ever any trouble, it'd be a long walk or run to get around with a lot of people all the way around the end of the layout. So he's got a pass through that you can crawl down through and go right out the door. See my signal's yellow, going to red. So I'll be slowing for the approach red. And this is just outside of Darwin. You can see the curtain that separates the rain room from the rest of the layout. You can see on the floor down there on the left the ramp that actually walks up. So when you get to Darwin, which is at 65 inches, it's not 65 inches to the operator. It's a nice comfortable height. And that also makes it easier to walk underneath the layout when you go into the branch line. It's not a really crouched down duck under. It's a comfortable duck under. So I'll be waiting out here for my green so I can pull into Darwin where I'll reverse my train and then go down the branch line the other way. So I'll have to run the power around and that gray and red unit will be on my lead. So here I'm at Darwin and it doesn't look as dark in here because my camera had a light on it. I didn't know it, but so once I got the clearance to leave the yard there, I pull into the branch line here. Now this is pretty high because that's the 65 inches and I'm standing down on the floor. And this part's dropping down a grade here, and if you look, I'll show you how he's got a brake in the track that works really neat. And it's got a light indicator that when you turn the brake on to hold the train on the main line so you can do your switching, a blue light will come on right here that indicates that the brake is on so you don't pull away leaving the brake on and derailing your train. When you turn the brake off, the rod retracts into the roadbed and then that blue light goes off. So I had to switch out drop off some empty hopper cars and pick up some loads. Now here I didn't film going through that long people tunnel, but this is at Cayford here. And I've went around the loop here and there's a small yard here where I'm gonna drop off the first string of loads I picked up so I don't have to bring them down the rest of the branch. The line will continue to drop down grade, so I don't want that extra weight. Plus there isn't a lot of room down there, so the more I can leave, the better. The cars I'm passing my right were actually pulled up from another tipple there that I will be picking up on my return trip. And those hopper cars would have normally been down to the tipple, but previous train must have pulled them up there and left them for me. So I've dropped off my loads, and all my loads are sitting here, and I'll be taking what empties I have left, and I'll be running down to spot them at another tipple. So here I'm coming through that narrow area where the benchwork really narrows up here, and there's a tunnel here. You can see that Mars light. This area is called Linwood, West Virginia. So I won't be stopping here. We'll pass this tipple, but we will return here and drop off my empty hopper cars. So the loads that we passed up at that yard came from this tipple right here. You can see the two tracks. They would have been sitting down there normally. So right in here, there's a small little area that I could pass and run around my train. Continuing on through the tunnel there on the right was another working coal tipple there, but we didn't switch that one. That's for another train. So I've come back up to this Hawkins tipple here, and I placed out my first cut of empties, and I'll go back out to the main and grab my second cut. Now this was a long morning already, so this session was also about a 4-hour session, and we split so that people could switch jobs and do other things. And my second shift will be being the dispatcher at the CTC panel. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to grab that other string of coal hoppers, place them at this tipple, grab my caboose, and then I went up to that yard where I dropped off my loads. Normally I would pick those up and make my way back to Ricksburg, but I timed out up there and moved my power up there for the second crew to pick it up, and then I went over to work the dispatcher. Now the dispatcher on a CTC railroad with a real dispatching machine is something I had never done. So Bob Sobol was kind enough to sit there and basically do it for me for a while and just talk me through how it all works. And I really got to operate it only about the last half an hour by myself. But I look forward to the day I can come back and actually sit and run a full session from this because I really enjoyed doing dispatching and it was really fun at a real CTC panel. You can see in the desk there is my train sheet, and in front of me is the panel itself, and up on the top there is actually the telephone communication system. Well, that will end part 2, and I want to thank David Stewart for the invitation to run on the Appalachian, Ohio. And for part 3, we're going to visit a very unique railroad. So thanks for watching again.